Okay, I want to cover a few things that we'd covered before, but problems that were fixed and problems still remaining. First of all, there was one update since the last video. Let's see if there's another one today. Sudo apt update, sudo apt upgrade -yes. I trust them, so let's go ahead and install if there are any. Goes out here to the mirror, looks at status, finds out what packages, lists them, compares them. See if we got any updates. 2 packages. Oh, these are the live cursor. So this may have fixed my cursor offset problem. So that's what we're here for. Thank you, engineers at SciPed. So let's try this. Previously, what happens if I move to the left, the cursor would be offset. It latches about 10 pixels past and then goes back to the border. So there the vertical bar is aligned, it's sensitive, is aligned with the left-hand border. Let's look at the upper left-hand corner. Voila, that's locked at the corner. Top border locks on it. Let's look at the right-hand side. Nope, that's still showing the cursor. The vertical bar is on the inside internal part of the terminal window by about 10 pixels. So if I left click on it, now you're probably seeing it locked on the right hand border, but that's not the way it's displayed on the terminal. And this is the same for 1080p or a 4K monitor. So if I move that over, it's still not locked on the border, let's say at the bottom. Yeah, it's about 20-25 pixels off there. But you're probably seeing the horizontal bar on the bottom border of the window. So they got half of it fixed. So that's some progress. Remember what my video viewer G-thumb crashes. See if it's fixed. Nope. Oh, let me get to the images. Let's see how GwenView is doing. Looking good. Previously, you did not get to see all these images. Let's see if it's working now. This is the photograph taken with a Fuji. No, an Olympus camera, an FE220. It's a 7.1 megapixel. It's an old digital camera. And if you have digital camera, hold on to it, take care of it. They're coming back. People are finding out that the iPhone and smartphone images are just not comparable to the digital cameras, because the aspect ratio, I think, is one of the problems I don't enjoy. Previously, it showed this, but it didn't show up in the video because of the frame buffer capture, but now it's working. This is the 2 nylon standoffs that I attached to the 4A module, and it turns out that these 2 mounting holes are spaced exactly to match a 40 millimeter fan. And here is No, that's another view. Here's the fan just sitting on the two screws, threaded part of the standoff. I've got the fan upside down here. I had a 50-50 chance of putting it on. Didn't know, there's no arrow showing which way the air would flow when powered up. The power pin, the 2.54 millimeter connector, is a smaller one than the one that comes with the system. Here's a photograph I took with the camera showing you where the offset was, but this is now matched with the corner. And this is still the offset, but it looks a little bit further over in the current situation. There are two other viewers that I installed. One of them is called the Eye of Mate, EOM. Just do a sudo install on it. If I want to look at the images, this is how this utility works. There's the image. The data about the image is on the left-hand side. The back and forward arrows are up here. Do next, and there's the famous image. Up close and personal. And there's the fan again. Oh, by the way, I think I mentioned this, but this fan is a 5 volt 0.14 amp, so this takes 0.7 watts. So whenever you're measuring the power consumption of the system, 0.7 watts is consumed by the fan. Here's my offset, and there's the other offset. So I've got, oh, there's one other image viewer, Eye of GNOME. Install it. It's not by default installed. It looks like this. Let me put it full screen. And now we've got a huge image. Here's my heat sinks. Standoffs. Standoffs up closer. Fan. Cursor offset. Cursor offset. Also, you've got your metadata information about the image. This one, you'll see there's two. This is a double thing here, and that's because exposure was 1/3 of a second. That's 333 milliseconds. That's too much for a human hand to hold a camera steady. Need a tripod. So there's an overview of 4, and there are more image viewers. You just pick your choice. I prefer the G-Thumb because it has the capability of cropping and resizing and doing other manipulation. Let's see if I try this without any arguments. Nope, still gets a segmentation fault. One of the things to cover here is, previously I showed you that if you install sudo apt install lshw, which is a utility to list the hardware of any system you're on. I have it installed. I just want to make sure because I'd since I demoed it in another video, had flashed the memory. So it's still there. Let me just get rid of the directory there. If I do a sudo, run this as root, lshw, it's going to go through here, scan the system for all hardware, and then list, and it's a long list. In fact, let me count that. Run it again, pipe it to the word count, see how many lines of text I get, and I get 322. Going to the top of the output shows me that my system name is Andromeda. I still have the offset of the cursor in here, so when I try to go highlight text, I may grab 2 lines or even miss. Okay. It's SiPed Lichee Pi 4A. I've got 16 gigabytes of memory, 64-bit processor, and I've got 4 CPUs numbered 0 through 3. There I go, see. Hopefully they'll get this fixed in the next week. It's a work in progress. I got an email from one of the engineers. This shows that this is a 1.848 gigahertz. It says the width is 32 bits. I don't believe that. It's a 64-bit processor. Then there's a lot of information about, let's see, where's the memory? It's later on. Shows me some USB information. I've got a Sony card reader for inputting the files from my camera. I've got a Yeti blue dot microphone that you hear my voice on. I've got an Acer. This is an old keyboard I just grabbed. I'm going to put on remove this one and attach an Apple keyboard so that you won't see so much ugly typing. There's a whole bunch of other information about USB and the memory. Let me see if I can find it. It shows the memory to be 15 gigabytes, even though the hardware listing and everything shows that it should be 16 gigabytes, but the RISC-V processor, the Alibaba TH1520 silicon on chip, uses memory mapped I/O, which means that physical addresses are used to communicate and control things like the HDMI display, UART, USB, Ethernet, everything's done through memory mapped I/O. And if we get into the details of it, I can show you how to do that, because the early microprocessors, going back to the 1975 through 1980, things like the Motorola 6800 and the 6809 use memory mapped I/O. So to communicate with a UART, you had to go and initialize it by writing into a control register through one address, and then data transfers were made through an adjacent memory address to read and write. Same is done here, except it takes a little more memory. There's one other way to find out the CPU information, and that is there's a directory called proc for process, and process numbers are shown there, and there are directories, information, there's text files, and I do not recommend you spending any time in here yet. But the one file that I'm interested in is called cpuinfo. It's a text file, and if I cat/etsy/cpuinfo, I can do this from anywhere. Oh, it's not Etsy. Proc cpuinfo. I just get the CPU information listed. So processor 0 is a RISC-V 64. That's the instruction set architecture, and then all the letters after it have to do with all the various additions to the basic system. You got to remember that there are a large number of RISC-V processor chips that are used for embedding process where you only need integer arithmetic. You may want to have multiply, divide instructions. Then you can add floating point, single, double precision. Then you have supervisor and user modes. I'll try to do some discussion of those as we all learn a little more. CPU maximum frequency is 1.848 gigahertz. Let's just call that 1.85. Between the registers, the process counter, program counter, and the registers, there is cache. There are two buses, data buses for the architecture, and one bus is for the instructions, and so there's a cache, memory. Whoops, see, I can't do that. There we go. There's a cache for the instructions, and it consists of 64K, which means that you preload from memory 64K of memory, and as you're executing the program, you fetch the instructions from the cache, which is 10 times faster probably than the access to the DDR memory. Same for data. You preload data into the data cache to speed up things. Then there's a level 2 cache where you preload the cache. I'll give you some diagrams later on in another video, but there's 1 megabyte there. Now here is shows you that the cache line and everything is 64 bytes, which is why I was questioning the LSHW utility only showing 32. Okay, I think I'm done. I'm positive I'm done. I think I covered everything that I had listed. I was hoping this is under 30 minutes, and it's 17 minutes. I'm going to get this one under 20. Take up less of your time. 1, things are progressing. 2, I've shown you some additional software, image viewers you can use, a little more information about the system. There's one more thing. If we go to jwst/Lichee, there's an image on the wiki page for the Lichee Pi 4a. Let's look at it. Let's do EOG. I've done PNG. And this is the image that shows the architecture of the silicon on chip for the TH1520. All this is on that little chip that has the little blue heatsink on it. It contains the CPU, the quad core, and the chip is TH1520, but the core is the C910. We're not complicating this diagram by showing all the bus structure and everything, but between the CPU and the memory, the DDR system, whether you got 8K or 16K, there is the instruction and data buses. Inside the CPU itself, we had the caches, the cache, the registers, etc. We'll do more detailed diagram as we go on. For peripherals, we got the USB, the Ethernet, the eMMC, a bunch of other stuff, I2C, UART, pulse width modulation, analog to digital channels, which we can access through the GPIO pins. And I forget what Well, it may not have anything to do with memory at all. It may be that I just haven't looked up what ISO 7816 is. That's probably a data bus for some equipment. Over here we got the video system. We got the interface for camera and display. Got video out for the HDMI, the graphics processing unit. We got video processing system. We have an encoder, decoder for various supported formats we'll look at. There's a neural processing unit for possible AI applications. We got an audio system for our 3.5 millimeter headphone, what have you. And there's a clock, and what else have we got? There's a real-time clock. I'll have to do some research to see if that's really what it is, and there might be a case where you need the real-time clock if you're disconnected from the system, from internet, and not using the time protocol. That's enough for today. Thank you for your time. Hope you enjoyed this, learned a little bit more, and it's just a steady process of peek and poke and see what the system's capable of. Again, thank you, and I'll be back.